Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Legend Fiction Show. I'm your host, Dominic, and it's good to be with you. Hope you got a cup of coffee. We've got a fun lineup this morning. I've got a cool topic I'm interested to run by you and see what you think. And then hopefully, our good friend Gabby will be joining us, and we're going to do something really special. We're going to record one of our lessons from the creative writing school, and we're going to do it live instead of trying to fit it in on Mondays. We figured, we'll just share it with you. We usually take these live streams and then mark them for members only. And so we've got some special perks. I am still figuring out the whole members only special thing. So more on that in the future as I keep getting my head put on straight. We are in the running right now for our next online con, which is Legend Haven. It's going to come out in about 2 months. And so I'm going to show you all a sneak peek today of how that's coming together. Still just beginning, but so that you know where you are and what we're about. Legend fiction is about helping indie fiction authors love writing again so that they can finish their dream novels. Authors who are exactly like me are stuck because we just don't know how to reach our dreams of like finishing a novel or how to find our readers, which means stuff like marketing and growing an author brand. And frankly, I think a lot of us are tired of advice that sucks. And it doesn't work. So I'm here to work. This is why I'm showing up. I test everything because I'm here to help authors find their freedom by building writing habits that actually work, that help you finish your novel so that we can grow as authors without budgets or limits holding us back. Because I do believe that this year, this time right now, is an absolutely insanely phenomenal and fun time. And I think it's only going to get better for indie authors as long as you can get that novel finished, or if you can get your projects finished, and then if you can figure out who to network with, who to collaborate with, and who to have fun with to be able to find your readers. So, if you've never heard of me before, which is likely, I am Dominic, founder of Legend Fiction. I work full time in marketing. I've been writing novels ever since I was 13. I don't know how many short stories I've written, most of which I've never published, which I probably should. And I've side quested for about 15 years or more in marketing, working for agencies. And I did all of that. Well, okay, it was good money, it was a job. But I wanted to learn how to market my own novels. And I wanted to figure out, I could write these things, but then how do I sell them? And how do I find people who want to buy them? Right? How do I make friends? So I started this community during the pandemic. And I'm hoping to in the general community of legend fiction, inspire people to find the systems and the motivation and the fun to double and triple their writing output. Well, check. That works. People are having so much fun in there. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. That's today's theme, today's topic for conversation. We're going to talk about why most indie authors never finish a novel. And then the other part that we offer is a mastermind, an indie author marketing mastermind for people who want to talk about and share resources about what's working and what doesn't and what they're trying and how can we work together because a lot of us don't have big budgets to blow on things and we don't want to sit around waiting for permission. So if you want to skip 15 years worth of trial and effort and error, come and hang out, ask me your questions. I'm here to help as much as humanly possible, and quite frankly keep building the coolest community of storytellers in the world. So good morning, Austin. Good to see you. Thanks for joining the stream. Got any questions? Drop them in. Okay, so we've got our topic coming up, why most indie authors never finish a novel. We're going to get into that pretty soon. I think if I just double check my little sort of calendar schedule thing, in about a half hour, Gabby should join. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a little bit of story time, a little bit of a read aloud. If you missed the last stream, which I'm actually going to mark it as members only, but I did a read aloud of Cool Drake. Come on, do the focus thing. There you go. You can sort of see that now. Cool Drake, which was a short story collection, an anthology of short stories from the legend fiction community. What we did was we told everybody, okay, we're going to run a flash fiction contest. You got to write 1,000 words. You're going to have 3 days to do it, and you're not going to know what it's about until day one. And everyone was like, okay. And we got about 12 fun short stories. So last time I read my story and I read somebody else's, Karina Turner. And so those were quite fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read two more and probably I'm going to jump to this book here, A Guide to on Fairy Stories. And so if you know Tolkien, you know that this is something he wrote ages back, which is, I'm calling it a manifesto from a war veteran that has defined a century of fantasy fiction. So we're going to read that. And so those are all annoyingly pretty quick. and then we're going to get into our talking points. Today is going to be a slightly shorter conversation, a slightly shorter live stream, but I think you're going to enjoy it. So let's start with all right. Let's start with Cool Drake. Do you have coffee? You drinking anything to stay sane? I routinely let my coffee get cold. It's just an ongoing problem. It's cold. I spent too long setting up this live stream. Okay, so again, we are doing Cool Drake, and you can grab this ebook totally for free. Link is in the description right below this video. You can download your copy of it, pull it into your Kindle or something like that, and just have fun. I'm actually going to start with number one, The Boy Bishop. It's a short story from one of our community members named Patrick Dorn. So let's pull this up here. The Boy Bishop. 13-year-old William Quildrake. Oh, I should tell you what was the context. For writing this thing, the word that I gave them was Quildrake. Duh. And everybody had to find an interesting or creative way or unusual way to use that word. Didn't all have to be dragons. They could have been very unusual things. And so here's one where there's not an overt dragon in it, but he did use the word, and it's a cool story. So 13-year-old William Quildrake, a mere chorister at St. Paul's Cathedral, quivered in his borrowed episcopal robes. Clad head to toe in mitre, cassock, and cope, his shivering wasn't due to the cold. Sure, it was the 28th of December, Holy Innocents' Day, and winter in Londinium was never warm. But as he agonized through the Vespers, lessons, and responsories, anticipating the moment when all eyes would fall on him, he begged the Holy Child to wing him off to heaven and avoid the inevitable humiliation. William Cooldrake gripped the bishop's brazen crozier with white knuckles and prayed to die. Ridiculously tall for his age, with spotted face and voice doggedly unbroken, the gangly youth's election to the dread honor of becoming the boy bishop landed like a pronouncement of doom. Sure, he knew the choral parts of the missal by rote, but ever since his elevation, each time he tried to sing the Magnificat solo, his tongue swelled up in his mouth, his throat closed, and he could only speak like a mouse. His face reddened and felt hot. Some aspects of carrying the boy bishop title had been merry. In the 3 weeks since St. Nicholas Day, he'd paraded around Londinium in episcopal garb, the other boys costumed as priests. He'd pretended to confer blessings. It was a playful, innocent mummery, and oddly edifying. But the idea of leading the actual Vespers prayers in the cathedral gave Quildrake a palsy. Brother Breffni, an Irish Benedictine before the dissolution, his breath reeking of sacristy wine and leeks, had attempted to drill the liturgy into William's terrified mind with slaps to the back. Oh, hold on. Split to the wrong page. Let me pull it back up. Next. Boy Bishop. Where'd it go? Okay, so Brother Breffni, an Irish Benedictine before the dissolution, his breath, reeking of sacristy wine and leeks, had attempted to drill the liturgy into William's terrified mind with slaps to the back of his head. You're denser than a brick of turf, he'd moan. You'll never amount to anything, not even fit to be the mockery of a priest. William tried his best, but to no avail. The Latin words, set to Thomas Tallis's sublime music, went in one ear and out a nostril, never even passing through to the other side of his head. Rumor had it that King Henry, defender of the faith, now in his decline, was inclined to abolish the boy bishop tradition. The inversion of clerical roles was as potentially blasphemous as the continent's debauched feast of fools. But such a proclamation could not come in time to save William from his fate. At the recitation of the Magnificat, the bishop would rise from his cathedra, announcing, "He hath put down the mighty from their seat." William would then take his place, proclaiming, "And hath exalted the humble and meek." And then he'd lead the rest of the service, all the way through the Song of Simeon, the Miserere Nobis, and the final benediction at Vesper's end, unless he dropped dead first. Sure, it was no kind of martyrdom. Croaking and collapsing in praise of the Virgin? No saint ever did that. For 3 weeks, William had lain on his pallet all night at the St. Paul's Cathedral School, sweating and shivering, praying for the plague to take him. But alas, he was cursed with perfect health. His treble voice tenaciously clung to childhood, even as his body shot up like reeds on the Thames. He was distracted, distraught, desolate. Brother Breffney's incriminations rang in his ears. You'll never amount to anything, not even fit to be the mockery of a priest. All too soon the evening of holy innocence had come. In the sacristy, Brother Breffney wrestled him into the vestments. His fellow choristers donned their priestly garb, as if preparing for a masked ball. They enjoyed the anonymity of numbers. But not William Quildrake. He had no place to hide. All eyes would be on him as he usurped the noble bishop's seat. No one was less worthy, a squeaking mouse, sitting on a lion's throne. He turned to run, to flee the cathedral, but it was surrounded by clergy, both false and genuine. There was no escape. If the Holy Child would not heed his prayers, perhaps his mother might show mercy. Blessed Lady, he prayed, forgive me for blaspheming you and your son. It's not my intention to mock you. I ask not for my sake, for my shame is indelible, but for the sake of your precious son. Prevent me from committing this sacrilege. Deliver me from shame. Your obedient son, William. Amen. William Quildrake blinked a few times, shocked to realize the bishop and choir were already well into the Canticle of Mary. His time had come. It was too late for the angels to fly in and carry him away. His throat clenched. He could hardly breathe. The bishop, in his bold, stentorian voice, sang, He hath put down the mighty from their seat. His Eminence stepped away from the throne and gestured for William to take his place. The boy's legs wobbled as he shuffled over. He managed to take in half a breath, not nearly enough, opened his mouth, and squeaked, croaked, and broke. The entire cathedral went silent. The bishop looked flustered, and Brother Breffney swore in Irish. Tears flowed down mute William's cheeks. He took in another shallow breath and squeaked again. But then his voice cracked and dropped an entire octave. Astonished, William sleeved the tears away, breathed deeply, and sang, his new voice resounding through the cathedral. The words came effortlessly, and hath exalted the humble and the meek. From that moment, William Quildrake grew in stature, reputation, and humility. His reassuring baritone lifted the congregation's spirits. Even Thomas Tallis was impressed. And yet the young man never seemed to be performing. William Quildrake sang not from the throat, but from the heart. I always knew the boy had it in him. No, wrong person. I always knew the boy had it in him, Brother Breffney said, soon after that memorable boy bishop vespers. He clapped the elderly sacristan hard on his back. Some day he'll make a hell of a priest. And he did. So that was a story by Patrick Dorn. He used to write plays and then weird Western short stories, and now he writes supernatural fiction and urban fantasy novellas set all over Ireland from patrickdorn.com. So thanks for those who are just joining us. We were just reading a short story from a book, and I'll show you the cover. So this is there we go, short story challenge from the Legend Fiction community. And we challenged the community members to write a 1,000-word short story on a single word prompt. And they had 3 days to do it. And then this ebook was put together as a gift for anybody who wanted to get a sense of who's in our community and the kind of authors who are in there. So you can have a look at the link in the description, grab your own copy of this. All right, I think we got time for a second story. So here's the literal second story in the book. Once Upon a Time by Joseph Leach. All right, here we go. It was evening when he rode into the village, huddled at the foot of a small wooded mountain. The sky was still bright in the west, and the first stars were shining from a deep blue, slowly turning into black. The village looked prosperous and well cared for. Lanterns were lit above the doorways, and the windows of the tavern were bright, spilling light out into the street. It was, however, deserted. The houses were shut up, and the tavern was empty. His eyes narrowed, and his expression was grim. He'd seen this before. Not often, thankfully, but too frequently. He strapped his helmet tight, set his shield on his arm, and pulled his lance from its place on the saddle. Then he galloped through the street, the hooves of his destrier loud in the silent street. His business would be on the mountain. He was Sir Bravere of Stonehill, a knight of the Order of St. George, sworn to protect humanity from the scourge of dragons. More than once his skin had been scorched by dragon fire, his body broken by claw and fang, and yet still he lived true to his oath, and by the grace of God he had survived, and many a drake had not. 2 days ago he'd met a furtive fellow in a tavern. In return for many tankards of ale, he'd told of a drake and a village held in its thrall. The villagers, he had said, had come to an arrangement with the beast. It did not attack the village, but in return, children from the village were brought to its fire, their parents forced to stand by and watch. He had encountered this before. Fearful people could make poor decisions, like sacrificing a few to protect the many. He, however, with his lance and his own body if need be, had sworn to put an end to any such deal. He slowed as he rode into the dark of the mountain forest, his ears straining in the silence. Soon he found a well-worn path and was able to increase his pace. The scent of pine was now mixed with the smell of burning, and he feared he'd come too late for this night's victim. Ahead, he could see firelight. He gripped his lance and came at a gallop to a clearing bright with dragon fire, and then he stopped. Something was wrong. It was a large, circular clearing, surrounded by tall pines. In the center was a fire, stacked high with wood and with sparks rising high into the evening sky. Around this sat children, and around the edge of the clearing stood their parents and other notables of the village. The dragon was there also. It was not, however, the fearsome beast he'd been expecting. It was small, barely the size of a child's pony. His own destrier was far larger and heavier. Its wings were folded neatly behind it, and its mottled skin was much the same color and texture as the sheet of parchment it held in front of it. Strangest of all, it was dressed in an embroidered waistcoat of faded red and gold, and a pair of spectacles rested on its snout. All those in the clearing were now still and silent, and they were all looking at him. The beast also was looking at him. Its wings drooped, and its arms and voice started to shake. "Oh dear," it said. After a brief pause, a figure dressed in black and with a white collar, presumably the village priest, came hurrying towards him. Who are you, and why are you here?" the priest demanded, as he drew near the knight. "I'm Sir Bravere, a knight of the Order of St. George," the knight responded, "sworn to kill dragons. What's going on here? What trick of the devil is this?" "Oh, it's no trick, Sir Knight," the priest replied. "Your services are not needed here, though I do not doubt your honor. Yon beast is not a fire drake, nor an ice drake, nor anything foul." Around the fire, all eyes had turned back to the beast, who was again reading from the parchment it held, with occasional wary glances in Sir Bravere's direction. "It's a quill drake," the priest continued, "a pen dragon. The pen in its pocket, along with the imagination to wield it, is its only weapon. It's a writer and a storyteller. There's no threat here." "So," the knight said slowly, "when I was told that the young of the village were being brought to the dragon's fire, they were being brought to listen to stories?" "Just so," the priest agreed readily. And then he paused. "Good sir knight, who told you of this village?" "Oh, there was a man in a tavern, don't know his name. Sly, swarthy, overly fond of drink." The priest nodded and grimaced. "Ivan Pesterman. He's a liar and a thief. He was rather roughly run out of the village a few weeks ago. I fear, he said hesitantly, looking up at Sir Brevere sitting on his great horse, that you have been used, Sir Knight. Sir Brevere sat still, his eyes fixed on the quilldrake. It made some dramatic gesture and set all the children laughing. What tale does it tell tonight? He asked. Oh, the priest smiled. It's a merry story about two squirrels arguing over their winter hoard. Still, Sir Brevere sat motionless, his spear gripped tightly in his hand. Is there not enough evil in the world, the priest asked, that you need to go looking for it where none exists? There was a long pause where laughter could again be heard from those around the fire. Then Sir Brevere placed his lance back in its place and removed his helmet. You're right, father, he said. There is too much evil in the world, too few merry stories about squirrels. End of that story. This was by Dr. Joseph Leach, who is a scientist, Catholic deacon, and author, retired from the University of Melbourne to concentrate on his fiction writing. So there you go. You can grab a copy of that ebook. If you have a look at the link in the description, you can download that completely free and you can put it on your Kindle or you can read it totally online, all free, and just enjoy it, a gift from our community to you. So we're going to get to our topic in a minute, probably just in a couple of minutes here. Um, tell you what, I'm gonna skip this guide on fairy stories. 'Cause I want to make sure that we get enough time to talk about our topic for today before Gabby joins in about 10 minutes, actually. Okay, so the conversation topic for today is, let me go back to where I had very neatly put my notes on it so that I could not forget them. Why most indie authors never finish a novel. And so this is basically me going to confession and just sharing, why am I never finishing a novel? And if that's you, what are your reasons? Why are you struggling to actually finish your novel? And you can drop it into the comments and say hi. Tell me what you think. What are you struggling with? Number one thing holding you back? You know, what's not going on? Go ahead and say hi. Tell me what you think. So, man, I'll tell you what it is for me, and maybe it's for you too. But gosh, in my younger days, before I was, I don't know, less wise, I used to do a whole lot of writing. I used to write all the time. It was my go-to. Maybe when you were a teen in high school, right? Or in college, you used to get up to a lot of writing. You had a lot more free time. The world was safer, right? Maybe. Now that I'm a grown up, so I'm about 38 now, and just life comes at you constantly, right? Life is just busy, busy, busy. And so I'm just not writing. And so that's a problem because what else? Go Austin says it's pure procrastination. I know we just straight up put it off. You know what was funny for me? Kind of really brought this home this past year was I had a dream, and I had a dream where I had passed on and I had died, and I was aware of it. And my first thought was, darn it, I'm never going to write all the things I always wanted to write. And then the dream went into other very interesting places after that. But I remember just waking up from that thinking, I don't want that to be the rest of my life. All of these things that I love to stay kind of totally locked up inside me and to never become something like real outside of me that I can pass on to somebody else. I want to see somebody else and their eyes lighting up and their excitement. And I want them to geek out about the same things that I'm geeking out over a shared world. I want to be as successful or get something published that somebody else will also love the same way all of these other authors all seem to be so successful. So, like this kind of thing, like being able to just finish a project and just put it out, you know? What's holding us back from doing this? Well, goodness, a lot of different things. But here's another little story. Um, well, let me Austin's dropped another comment here. What's worse, I know I'm supposed to write something. I've had an idea for 20 years now, and it just keeps growing. Yeah. Sometimes it's not just procrastination, you know? So I'm going to be the kind of annoying guy who gives everybody a free pass, even though maybe what we need is actually someone to like stick our noses to it. Or I don't know. Maybe I just don't want that for myself. I don't want someone coming in and adding more guilt to my life because there's a lot going on and we're, juggling, trying to keep a lot of things in the air, trying to make a lot of things make sense. It's not like things are getting any easier in terms of jobs and all of this. But I remember when I was 13, I wrote my first novel, and I should have a printed copy, and I don't. I wrote my first novel, and then gosh, when I was about 24 or 23, I tried to start a little publishing company. And I tried to get into the fiction publishing business. And my friend and I, we built a website and we put together a little package and we started getting into it. And then I realized, well, we don't actually have any product. We don't have anything that proves that we can do what we say we can do in terms of publishing a book. So I dug out my old novel, um, revised it, created a quick cover for it, and threw it up on Amazon Kindle. Well, here's the coolest thing. Um, couple of families bought it. I don't exactly remember totally how they found it, but they found it and they bought it, and their kids loved it. Now, I'm no C.S. Lewis and I'm no Tolkien, and that book was probably a mess, and I need to go through and re-edit it. But I think it was fun enough. It was good enough. And the kids read that thing to dog-eared bits. And they would send me photos of the kids arguing over who got to read it. And the fact that they would climb up into a tree and read it. And the eldest daughter, the girl in the family, would write back and she told me how mad she was that only the boy in the story got to have all the adventure and the girl got locked away. Like, how unfair is that? And of course, that was pretty awesome feedback. Um, and then I never did it again. It's just so why? Okay, well, life happened. And in my case, it's been a very tumultuous life, and we've been moving every 2 years, and we've had problems with black mold in homes and stuff like that. It's been a bit of a mess. Um, but there have been little opportunities to write that have sneaked in and out. Victor, hi, Victor. Welcome to the stream. Victor says he had a similar dream. He was dying, and the only thing I was worried about was trying to finish his book. Yeah, I hear that. Um, Maybe that's a warning. You know, sometimes I wonder if that's okay, not a bad warning, but like a good one. Like, come on, friend. You know, our guides encouraging us, like, what you've got to say, there's a reason why you're in love with it, why you keep spending so much time with it. Keep going. Victor, actually, you inspired me. I loved your sentence, your line. You called back to Tolkien and Lewis. And I think it was Lewis who said, I would not have finished this if it wasn't for the one friend I had in my life who kept asking me about it. Find a friend. Find a friend. Frankly, it's the one reason why I started this community because I had this website for years, 10 years almost. And I was lying in bed at night during the pandemic and thinking, oh, I know what I can do with that because it never went anywhere. I could turn that into a community. I could start a fiction community. Um, we're now 4 years later, and this thing has grown. And we are 1 year now, closing my first year into really taking it seriously and building it hard. Okay, let's get back to where we were going. So we're talking about why do indie fiction authors never finish a novel? Well, okay, I think a couple of reasons. So let's just start going through them. We do start strong, and then we stall around the middle, and then we abandon stuff because maybe we forget it wasn't we didn't figure out the latter part of the novel, right? We're writing on fumes and vibes and fun and a cool song and a cool picture, and we've got a couple of opening scenes, but then we didn't, and we don't want to go and put any more thought into building out the rest of the story because, well, that might mean losing the feeling of the magic of the opening part. And it's a bit like, um, if you want to take a journey and you want to get to this really cool place, but what you're actually excited about is the experience of waking up really early in the morning as the sun is just coming up, air is cool, fresh pot of coffee, climbing into the car, that feeling of being a kid going on an adventure. And you don't know what the day will hold, but that opening experience, I mean, personally, I love that. That just feels magical to me almost every time it happens. And I think we approach novels that way. I've totally got a novel just like that I started 2 weeks ago, and I was sitting right there on the couch and I thought, oh, wait, this could be so. I know exactly the first two scenes. I sat down and I wrote them and then realized I have no idea where the rest of this goes. Now, if I'd pulled a normal me, I would have just not done anything. And I would have just marinated in like, ah, this would be such a cool thing, cool vibe. But I actually I've been trying to finish reading through, what is that book? Coffee Break Screenwriter. Because I bought it and I never finished it. And it's routinely incredible every time I read it. And so I was reading through it and realized, what if I just practice this novel I'm probably not going to write on these lessons that she's giving me? Let's do the mechanics of the thing. and started doing that. And I just started filling in notebooks, pages of like, oh, new ideas. And I started beginning to get a sense of this is why this story landed in me. This is why I'm interested in it. And here's why this character is actually really interesting to me. I never actually considered it. So mess around with chat, get some ideas, start writing them down, start matching them against, where do I want this story to go? What's a cast of characters that can surround this? So you do a little bit of mechanics on this thing and start fleshing it out, start identifying the story beats. I actually now have a pretty good idea of my ending. I don't know how I'm going to throw in all the explosions and the helicopters and stuff and all of the drama, but I have a good sense of what's the main bad guy, what's the main, the antagonist, protagonist. What does she want? What does the team want? What are they trying to do? I have a sense of where the story can go. And that's actually really cool to have that skeleton in place because now I can come back and start thinking through and plotting out all the other little scenes. But the point is, now that I know the whole thing, I can also give myself permission. This is the other thing, give ourselves a little bit of permission. Um, you might have an awesome idea now. It doesn't mean you have to write it now. It might need to marinate for a year, 2 years. So let's just start clearing out some of the mess that's in our minds, right? Because we can just, if you don't put any attention on anything, it all lumps together. So you might have some stinking thinking in there, some bad advice that might be like, as soon as you have an idea, and if it's really taking shape, and if you can see the whole way through, well, if you don't sit down and write it now, you're never going to. I don't know that that's true. Sometimes ideas like stories can be like a good wine or something. You might need to come back to it after a few years. You might have like an initial burst of like, this would be absolutely incredible. But maybe now is not the right time to write it. Maybe now is the right time to ideate it. And then you just got to get a few more years in. Now, what you might not want to do is go and tell everybody that you're writing a new novel. Maybe quietly make a Pinterest board, which is what I do, and start, vibe pinning. That's a word. Gathering together ideas, maybe brainstorming with a friend or brainstorming with chat to start fleshing out where things could go, what might be the consequences of things. Um, Austin says he's been enjoying. We have a group in the Legend Fiction community called Stories Live. He's been writing stuff for them a lot lately, which has let me world build for the main story, and that's awesome. Stories Live happens every 2 weeks, and a group of authors get together. They read aloud. They read aloud their work. The way that it works actually is everybody passes their work to the right, and then you read somebody else's work, and somebody else reads your work, and it's a way to hear what you've done through somebody else's point of view. But it's a great motivating deadline. Victor says, I used to listen to Pilar's podcast all the time. Oh, Coffee Break Screenwriter. Yeah, her book is great. I shifted away from screenwriting a few years ago, and I haven't listened to her podcast since then. I don't know if it's still going. I've only seen that book, and I'm taking that and applying that over to, writing novels. She may have a novel version, but I've just thoroughly loved this one. Okay, so let's clear out some of the, like I said, I want to clear out some of the stinking thinking that we've got. Um, an idea might be epic, and you might brainstorm it all out. And it might be something you come back to at a later time. So that's one. Two, it might also be okay to just ideate a lot and come up with a lot of beginnings of ideas of things. If you tell yourself that you are a failure as an author because you've got an armload of ideas, notes on napkins and bits of papers and unorganized stuff, or maybe you're highly organized, in which case I'm incredibly jealous of you. And you've got a meticulous set of Word documents or a wiki or an Obsidian, repository of interlinked stuff. Um, and you just write down everything in there, right? Whichever way that you organize. The point is, it's okay to also begin lots of ideas. Creativity is it's it comes from life and what life is. So if you think of grass growing through cracks in pavement, or you think of moss pushing through like a brick wall, how many false starts does that life go through as it marshals resources um, and partners with the little genius of that seed to turn it into grass, to push it up through and into the sky. Hi, Gabby. Welcome. Let me just
Hi,
change
how are
over
you
my
doing?
screen here. I am good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So we'll get into our thing in just a second. I'm just hanging out with chat. We're talking about our theme topic today, why most indie authors never finish a novel. Perfect timing. Want to ask you what you think. But I was just getting through, trying to clear out some of the thinking that we overburden ourselves with. Like just because you don't finish the novel doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Exactly.
So the first thought was sometimes novels take a while to marinate.
Mhm.
And then sometimes it's okay to have lots of beginning ideas and tons of ideas. And it's okay to have lots, and you're not a failure if you don't actually write them. So
Exactly.
let's just get that out of the way. Now, the other thing, and I'll ask you maybe if you want to take a stab at this first, cold turkey and no prep. Uh, why would you think most indie authors never finish a novel?
I think because there's 2 aspects. One is that, you start getting used to your book and you get in the groove, but because you know what's going to happen, or at least you know the gist, or you know the character, or you know what to expect from it, you get kind of bored with it and you're like, "Oh, but look at this other shiny new idea. I would rather check that out." And so you go to the new one. And the other option is in that same vein, again, you get bored or you get tired because you know your own book and you're like, well, I know what's going to happen. I know it's not as novel as if you're reading a book for the first time, kind of a thing. And so you start to doubt yourself, is it any good? Is it predictable? Do I really want to work with it? And you're just tired. So I've experienced both of those things. And like you said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just choosing, you know what? Pause. I'm going to come back to this. But if you do decide, you know what? Forget it. I want to finish this book. I want this book beginning to end, chapter 1 to the end. Then there are just some times where you just gotta accept the fact that sometimes it doesn't feel like reading your shiny new book for the first time. Sometimes it feels like you're just typing things that you already know that you're not at the moment 100% positive anybody else will actually care about. But you got to know that that's just kind of a phase that happens when you get familiar with your own book and when you kind of start to get tired because you have to understand that you are the writer. So of course you know it, but your reader, excuse me, they're gonna have a completely different experience because they don't know what's going on for the first time.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. So there is that. That's such a great. I was never even going to bring up that point. It's a very good one. You get
Right.
over familiar with your own stuff and you forget. And so it's some that's why you take breaks from it. That's still
Exactly.
different taking a break. Here you go. Free guard everybody. It is different to be abandoning your novel and never finishing and tactical break or tactical
Mhm.
retreat. Um to revive yourself, and maybe reviving yourself includes starting another novel or a three-part trilogy series. Anyhow, Um, Austin says, "Yep, that's me also," which is, getting bored in the middle thing. Victor Giovanni has a great line here. So he says, "The Lewis Tolkien quote is key as an indie author. That usually means no one publisher is demanding your book, and when no one is asking, it's easy to fade away or shift to the next shiny thing." Okay,
Mhm.
here's the major sort of answer that comes to my mind is we trust in motivation to get us through. We trust that, okay, on tomorrow morning, I am going to feel great because I will. And I'm going to show up even though I haven't for the last 3 months, but tomorrow, yes. And, tomorrow I'll stop procrastinating, basically. And then I'm going to write, and then I'm gonna do it the day after, and I'm gonna get an hour in, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to be a bestseller. And then the next morning, the plumber shows up an hour early, which he never does because the neighbor did something stupid and the mouse got stuck in the bathroom sink and whatever.
That was
And of
very
course, there goes
specific.
your whole thing. It's like, well, of course, today I'll give up. Okay, whatever. So we all get this. Motivation never shows up when you need it. So therefore, you cannot rely on it. Um, yeah, if you have a bad night of sleep, if you have an argument, coffee's gone, you break your favorite mug, blah, blah, blah. Power cord, that stupid mouse again chewed through your power cord. It deserved to be in the bathroom sink. Anyway, motivation will kill you constantly. So what do you
I want the
need? Systems.
chronicles of this mouse.
I love mice. Um, Probably might be my spirit animal, either that or a bear, I can't decide. So, um, okay, so what's the answer? Systems. Now, here's the thing, it's really hard to create a system on your own and then maintain it. Now, you can, it just does it takes a lot of discipline, to do that, to show up when nobody cares, nobody knows, nobody's asking, except the mouse on the top of the cabinet, but he just wants cheese. So what do? You grab a friend. You do need a friend. I think that's vital because you get that shared feedback, you get that shared energy. Um, And that's why we started our community. Now, you don't have to join ours. There are tons of others who are out there, but I strongly recommend join a community of people. Tell somebody in that community the fact that you're working on something. Maybe they'll have some positive energy, they'll some excitement, they'll ask some questions. You make yourself a little bit accountable to somebody who gets what you're going through. It's awful to be accountable to somebody who has no idea about your experience because then they'll either totally excuse you because they don't care, or they'll overjudge you because they are applying their own metrics of success to you. Whereas an author, a fellow author, especially a nice one, will know that this might be going in phases. You might be trying to ride a wave and you just need a friend to help you keep your head above water. So find a friend. And so, what we've done in the legend fiction community to help indie authors finish novels, we got a couple of things. Depends on the kind of author that you are. One is it's a community. Like there's an at all space where you can just come in, hang out, and see a lot of other people writing and doing stuff. That is exactly what worked for me. I know I'm the founder of this thing. I'm supposed to be writing all the time, and I'm not. And after about a year of just watching this community, all of a sudden, there's a book in me. I don't know where this is. I'm going to write it. And I did. And there wasn't a deadline, and I didn't really tell anybody. And I just started writing just because I was hanging around people who were doing the same thing and in love with the same thing. Um, Second thing that we do is we offer deadlines. So we'll have either writing contests or flash fiction challenges. And so these little things can like get the ball rolling a little bit, stop that moss growing up under the wheels by giving you a short little thing like, oh, well, I could do a flash fiction 1,000 word little thing, maybe take you an hour, maybe takes you 15 minutes if you're a nutcase and a speed writer like me. You, Gabby, how fast did it take you to write 1,000 words? Like no editing.
No editing, like a brand new short story or a scene?
I don't, yeah, a scene, whatever.
Okay, so if it's a scene and it also kinda depends on the type of scene, because if it's supposed to be a really emotional or action-packed scene, that takes slower, but if it's just kind of like, things are happening, get over it, 1,000
Mhm.
words might take me, like, what? I haven't really timed, but I'm gonna throw out a guess number here, 30 minutes?
Yeah, like a
But
half hour to an hour, yeah.
yeah,
I
but
was a little
that's
bit impressed at how quickly it can actually be to put out almost a
exactly,
full-on chapter length right there.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the second thing that we do is we've got deadlines, and then the third thing that we've done cue Gabby here, and we're gonna get into the school recording in a second for those who are joining us live, but we've also created a, creative writing school, which means you now have a very nice and lovely teacher who will help you stay on task, who will create an entire lesson plan for your year, and will help you write a book over 12 months, and will guide you through, thinking all of the different steps of building out your novel if you have absolutely no idea. And this sort of goes back to my first point, which is sometimes if you're just writing on vibes and fumes and coffee that the mouse didn't get into, um, you don't know the mechanics of what goes into actually writing something because you've never done it. You've never done any study. You've never thought about it. It's like trying to ride a bike the first time and you fall over and like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm just not cut from the same cloth. And it's like, dude, just do the practice thing for like 3 more times and then you'll probably start getting it. It actually does take a little bit of focus and attention and effort. And then all of a sudden, you'll be popping wheelies. Um, or doing extremely stupid, dangerous stuff as a kid with your brothers that you should never do on bicycles, like jousting with broomsticks and shoving them through spokes. Because of course that's what red-blooded boys do when their parents aren't watching. Um, Victor says, "Yeah, 30 minutes for 1,000 words. Sounds about right."
Okay,
So if
cool.
you have the mechanics, if you know the system, right? I think this is one thing that we don't give enough credit to the value of formulas. And we see these memes that are like, well, I don't like to do formulas. They stifle my creativity. And I'm like, well, there's laws for driving around on the road so that you can just at the very least get somewhere and zone out while you're doing it. And then if there's any confusion, you know who to defer to and stuff. Um, but the rules are indications of what to do in these situations. And if you're always trying to invent a whole new way to get cross country, you will burn so much energy versus learn the formula so that you know when you want to apply it to your own work. All right, last comment here from Austin before we get into our conversation, Gabby. So Austin says, I'm currently digging into the plotting part of the writing school. It's been causing so many questions about my world. I keep needing to refocus. I hope that means
Austin.
good questions. Because I have noticed actually, since our conversations, Gabby, I'm now paying
Mhm.
attention to how movies are made, and I'm like, "Ooh, this
Yeah.
big thing happened. Wait, was that the middle point?" Oh, it
Oh,
was
same.
every time.
Oh, it's sometimes it's a racket inside my head because I'm like, I'm trying to break apart this movie and I have to be like, "Gabrielle, stop, watch the show, watch the movie."
Yep, yep,
I'm
yep.
gonna
Oh, that's
throw
great.
a slight wrench in the
Oh, that's fine.
plan, because I have a hard stop at 8:20 my time, 8:25 maybe if we're pushing it, because I
Alright then,
actually have
let's just
another
not do the
appointment.
recording. We'll just keep right on talking about stuff, and then
Perfect.
no pressure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you know what was funny then? This is a little rule that I was learning from the Coffee Break screenwriter, and I've noticed it started happening a lot as I'm watching these movies. So I just
Mhm.
finished watching, Terminal List, is it Dark Wolf? I think it's the newest one that just came out, Dark Wolf.
Oh, can I interrupt you really, really quick?
Totes. Go ahead.
The Ritual, is that on Netflix or could I get it on a DVD?
Oh, I don't know. I assume it's on Net I mean, I watched it on Netflix,
You
that's where it
watched it
is.
on Netflix, okay?
Yeah.
Because I went to my library and it doesn't seem to have it, but that's not unusual. They choose to not
Librarian
have
looks
the
at you
most.
like, "Are you okay? Blink if you're okay."
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I
No, it
didn't
was
mean to
on Netflix.
interrupt.
Oh, it's fine, it's fine. Um So, I was watching the latest show, and then this new rule that I learned started showing up a lot. It was a rule about characterization, and it's a very simple rule, which means it's extremely annoying to have to think about and try to remember.
Mhm.
Um, Simpler stuff usually is. Basically, let me see if I can recapture the rule. The rule goes like this: every character, every person, that's how we operate as people. Every person has like an interior rule about how to handle every situation. So,
Mhm.
when you're talking with a family member, uh, you will act in this way and you won't act in a different way. But then when you
Mhm.
go somewhere else and you're talking at you're at a parking garage or you're on mission and you're in the field, you will act in this way and you will talk in this way. You will or will not say or do something. So you have laws inside you for everything.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, well, I don't know what to do with that. That sounds very vague and not very helpful, but I suppose it's interesting. And then I started paying attention to movies, and all of a sudden I'm realizing, "Oh my gosh, it's everywhere."
Mhm.
So, for example, um, you can get really complex, and that's kind of where my brain starts to get stuck because it's like, "Oh, there's too many situations." Okay, just make one rule for your character. What if your character is always the rule is, "I will always overthink every situation because that's how we stay safe." And now you've got a point of view for basically your whole novel. Your character can now
Exactly.
stay, sort of consistent. Then you start thinking about what are the exceptions then? Another one might be the rule is I will always say yes as soon as I think it's a good thing to do, even if I haven't totally thought it through. And that's actually how the two main characters in Dark Wolf, the Terminalists, how they act. They're both jacked and handsome and everything, and former military, and um, but one has been burned badly in the past, and so he's always hyper cautious about everything, and then this other one is like, "This looks like a good thing. It fits what I wanna do in the world. I'm in. I'll think about it after I've committed." And so that creates tension between them, and that's
Mhm.
obviously that's going to create tension. I can't remember, what was another one? Oh, All Creatures Great and Small. As I was
Oh, my
watching that,
friends
I'm
love
suddenly
that.
realizing you haven't seen that or you have?
I haven't, but my friends love
No?
it.
Oh, I love this show. Newest season is out, so my wife and I are watching it every weekend. I've noticed that there's one rule for one of the main characters, and once I notice it, you can't stop seeing it as an author, and it's really helpful. So the main guy will never admit that he is wrong. He cannot do it. That is his law. Now, I don't know anybody in my life who's like that, but um, he will only admit he is wrong when he's backed into a corner and everybody knows it, but the person who is kind of calling him out shows that they care for him.
Mm.
Only then will he actually apologize. And then it's completely genuine. Now he's a bit of a war veteran, and everybody's
Mm.
kind of been against him forever because he was in the First World War, and he's fought to keep his position and stuff. And so you can understand it. I have to be right because I'm the doctor. If you don't think I'm right, you won't pay me and you won't get healed. So I've got to be always right. And so it's like, oh, that's a very delightful, self fulfilling prophecy. Well,
Mhm.
his brother, his law is, or his rule is, never take any situation seriously. And the more serious a thing is being asked, the more you joke about it. And that's done because He's hurting very deeply deep
Mhm.
down. He's had his own experiences now in the Second World War, and he doesn't want to be as boring and as stuffy as his older brother. And so those are and I started noticing, wait, they always act in this way, and this is why we actually love shows that do this, like The Office. We show up and watch The Office, or like for me, I grew up on Stargate SG-1. I loved Stargate SG-1. Why? Well, because the characters all had very clear laws or rules of here's how you are. Teal'c is always, hmm, impassive, trying to be punny, and not knowing how to speak English. Jackson is always a bleeding heart for anybody who's in trouble, especially the underdog. Carter is routinely the smart one who is just bursting with all of the academic stuff that she wants to say because she groks how stuff works. And the team leader is more the redneck who absolutely loves her but hates the academic stuff that she, talks about. Just plain English, Carter. And they always act exactly the same. You take those characters and you put them in multiple situations. So figuring that out, I'm like, huh, what does Gabby have to say about that? You know, what have you sort of walked backwards or maybe intentionally done any of this with your own work, your own novels, or seen this kind of thing?
Oh yeah, in fact, the as you were speaking, the thing that I was thinking of first and foremost was my character Luis, who his rule even in the second book, because, like, it's so deep-seated in him that even the transition and the growth of the first book didn't even really completely change it in the second book, is his rule is, "I have to be strong." More specifically, I cannot show any sign of weakness. Like, this man is on a Zuko level of you know how you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, right?
I never did know.
Are you kidding me? That's your homework, you have to watch that.
Yeah, probably.
It's so much fun. There are moments where it feels like a kid show, but simultaneously, it also is really, really well done and developed, and the characters, and it's honestly like a great kind of example. Colonel Jack O'Neill is my spirit animal. I love that.
Go Austin. Another gatehead.
So, okay, so then in Avatar: The Last Airbender, quick recap of Zuko. Real quick chat. If any of you know who Zuko is, just back me up real quick.
Yeah,
Um,
type a number one if you know what she's talking about, because I don't. So rescue me here.
all right, so you have the main
Touchstones as author
character.
adjacent.
You have the main character whose name is Aang, and he and I like to call these touchstones. He and his two friends, who I won't name because their names are not necessary, they are the good guys who are trying to save the entire world from colonialism from the Fire Nation because there's four different
Mhm.
nations who can control one element, so fire, air, earth, water, right? And so Aang and his friends are the good guys trying to save the world. Then you have Zuko, who is the son of the Fire Lord. And
Right.
he has an arc. We'll leave it at that because you haven't seen it. But his entire goal the whole time is to capture the Avatar, but not because he believes in the regime or he believes in the Fire Nation or whatever. He has been banished by his father, and he can only get his honor back if he captures the Avatar. And the whole time, the only
Mhm.
thing crossing this boy's mind at any point is, I must regain my honor. I must regain my honor. I must regain my honor. So much so that it is a meme. This is a meme by now. So,
Oh, really? Okay, all right.
mhm. So, that then aside, on a very similar level, my main character, Luis, his dad is a person. You can read the books if you want to find out more. But has very much impressed upon his son that he is too weak because Luis physically, first of all, he's a bit of a twig. You know, he's not just the kind of like strong, intimidating guy that his older brother and his dad are. And then to boot, this poor kid at heart is just a bleeding heart. He's just a sensitive, tender soul. And his dad doesn't like that. So he tries to hammer it out of him, let's put it that way. And so Luis has gotten himself to a point where everything he thinks about all the time is, I am not going to appear weak in this situation. That's how he speaks. That's why he's like a man of few cutting words. Everything about him just exudes that. And then what I find most exciting about this rule that you were talking about, or that we are talking about, is that then when they follow this rule so closely, it makes it all the more exciting when in that one time one like you get one instance of this maybe per book when
Mhm.
they break it. When they
Right,
break
right.
their own rule because something has driven them that far. I'm thinking of the moment where Zuko does something dishonorable
Mhm,
just to complete his goal, just to get, his father's approval back. I'm thinking of the
mhm,
moment, particularly in book 2, where Luis he can't take it anymore, and there's just something that takes him past his point where his rule of, "I cannot show weakness," it just overrides that. So,
mhm.
following that rule, A, makes a character not predictable, but just kind of reliable in a way that, honestly, a lot of time we wish people were, because, it's like, "Okay, I at least pretty much know what I'm going into, I know how to respond to, I know," kind of a thing, so it can be a smooth relationship. And then it just adds so much more punch when something in the book finally drives them to break their own rule.
Yeah, that's great, that's fun. Um,
Did anybody in the chat know who Zuko was?
oh, yeah, there's a bunch. If
Okay, good.
yeah, everybody except me, so there you
Oh,
go.
okay.
Um, nerds.
Just watch, like,
Uh,
the first 3 episodes of the first season and the last, like, 5 episodes of the last season, you'll be alright.
yeah, no, I probably should, I know people have told me about that. I think I watched most of the actual movie that everybody hates, so
Oh,
that's,
no, no, no,
uh,
no. I'm sorry,
uh
you need to go back and watch the cartoon. Don't
yeah,
watch
yeah,
the Netflix
I
show
know.
either.
Alright, okay, okay, let me bilocate and then I'll figure that I've been trying to watch Frieren, it's my latest anime. Um, so the fun thing about this whole rule, side of thing, it's like, so Victor Giovanni has a good comment here. He says, "It's a great rule. It makes it easier to have a North Star for your character that you can default to when all else is getting confusing when writing or when all other lights go out." It's routinely fun in these long serial kind of, TV shows. I'm pretty sure they did this in, like, Star Trek and whatever, where something happens and then there's body swaps. Right, and the person's consciousness jumps into somebody else's body, and then it's so fun to watch the actors, embody and portray somebody else, and the only reason it works.
Friday.
Yeah, exactly, and the only reason it works is because they've created these baselines, these consistencies, and then they've adhered to them over a long period of time. I'm just thinking about, like, when you show up at a business networking event or if you go to college and everybody that you see, you instantly form a snap judgment about them, and then you kind of watch them, and then half the time they hold up to it, unless they surprise you. But that's usually rare. So you build a snap judgment. Oh, this person's always hunched over and quiet, and you understand that is their rule of how they act all the time. And maybe all it takes is playing the right piece of music, and they become an absolute, flaming weirdo, or they retreat even further and go out of a window because they don't want to talk to anybody. Yeah, there you go. Austin Burns says, "What movie? We don't talk about no stinking Avatar movie." All right, fine. Okay.
It
All right.
doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So yeah, so grokking the rules, getting the sense of it's an easy way to start with your characters. And maybe, I don't know, let's just walk around this for a second. Maybe you plan on the first 50% of your book, maybe. Play with these rules, stay with it consistently. And I'm going to advocate, especially if you're early on. So if you're an indie fiction author and you're trying to get stuff finished, Um, this ends up maybe coming around to being a sort of part of an answer to the overall question. I think one reason why we stop writing is because we don't understand who our characters are. It's
Mhm.
exactly what happened to me. I got lost with my main character. I'm going to throw her under the bus in a minute and see what you think, Gabby, um, on how to maybe get some clarity on her. But uh, I got like halfway through writing, 3/4 through writing this book, and didn't realize how I wanted to finish the ending because I'd lost touch with the character. She was not making sense anymore. Um, Part of it was I was trying to shoehorn her into, like, personality tests 'cause I wanted to absolutely, like, make her really consistent every time, and as soon as I did that, she just, like, faded away out of my mind, and I had to drop all of that and just go back to being, "Okay, you are the character you are, and I'm just gonna
Mhm.
follow where you go in this story," which is a very weird thing for an author to say out loud, but it's absolutely true.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Funny
I'm gonna walk
tangent real
around.
quick that I hope makes everybody laugh, but I thought it was funny. I was sitting there writing my book, and my
Yeah.
best friend was sitting right there. This book that I wrote, the characters that I made up, the lines that I made them say. and I'm staring at my screen. The room is dead quiet. My friend is peacefully doing whatever she was doing right there, not being disturbed. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, how could you say that to her? How could you do that? And it again, like I made it up, but to me, it feels like these people are doing their own things out of their own volition. And
Yeah.
sometimes I cannot
It's
fathom.
so internally considered. You turn around and then it's Spanish Inquisition, like, are you like, stop talking in your head all the time. Um, so I'm kind of wondering if the first, uh, again, if you're starting out, if you're Dean Koontz, you're probably doing this even more. But if you're somebody who's way more, developed an author, you're able to know how to apply the rules and when to not to. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna advocate or make a recommendation. If you're starting out, keep it simple. You need to be able to identify what is the rule for each one of my characters. What is their behavior? How do they act? It's ideal if it's very different to somebody else, because then you get interesting conversation out of it.
Mhm.
And spend the first half of your book not deviating from those rules. And then after the first half of the book, here's my thought. What do you think, Abby? The main character might be or probably is the one who will start to change, but everybody
Mhm.
else stays the same. This is why we love side casts, side characters, because they're routinely predictable because the story's not about them and it's not for them to change unless it's a massive Downton Abbey cast and then the story is about everybody. Um, and so of course everybody goes on a journey. But if you're just doing a 100,000 word novel or it's a YA fiction thing, identify a simple rule and then just keep it. My character is like this and they stay like this. The nice thing about having that little mental formula means, well, I'm stuck. I need them to get to this place. If my character routinely acts in this way, what do I need to throw at them to make them play their survival skill, which is their problem, their fatal flaw, but it's how they think about getting through everything. I am
Mhm.
snarky and funny every time something dangerous happens. And that routinely leads to bad decisions or bad outcomes. But I can't help it. Gotta be funny for the lols. So you need to throw something at them. If they feel stuck, throw more at them or take stuff away from them. So they say something dumb and funny, somebody else gets mad, and then that moves them into the next thing. So you got a nice because this, then this.
Mhm.
But if you don't have any idea for the rule at all, you often just stay stuck. So first, what do you think about that? And I'm curious to see if I can try to apply that to my own character before you have to bounce.
I think that's absolutely right. I am going to throw in one slight caveat here. So, when it comes to the side cast, you're absolutely right. They are probably not going to have as much of like a character growth as the main character, or at least you're not going to see it as much because you're not in their point of view. So, it's not going to be as obvious. But I do think that every character, even just a little bit, can and should have somewhat of an arc, because they are all still people and they all have their survival skill, they all have their desires. Now that said, the arc doesn't necessarily always have to change the rule at its core. Like I said, Luis in book one is very much one character and that's his rule, and in the second book has very much encountered a change, so he's not the same
Mm.
type of character, but the rule still applies to how then he chooses to carry it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna throw it out there. It is a little bit of a spoiler. First book, he's not a good guy. Second book, he has had a redemption arc. He's a good guy. He's a good guy in the second
Mhm.
one. But that rule still applies. So I think that yes, that
Yeah,
rule
yeah, yeah.
can
So,
absolutely always be North Star.
hooray, a friendly argument. Let's see if I may be completely wrong, which is totally fine because you're the teacher and I'm not. But there's a difference between like a secondary or third character. So
Mhm.
if you got like a couple of main characters and those have arcs. Let me see if you agree with my definition. And a character arc would be an internal journey of change that the character
Mhm.
needs to go on.
Mhm.
Whereas your side characters are going to stay more static. They're each going to have their own goals that
Mhm.
they will want to accomplish,
Mhm.
but they may or may not change on the inside. Um,
I think
you
they
know,
can. So you're right, not all of them necessarily have to. I'm thinking of yeah, so like my characters in the first book, Mercedes and Elijah.
mhm,
They Mercedes has her change in the second book because she's the main character in the second book. But you're right.
mhm.
They do grow, they do experience new things, they
Let
do
me throw more
apply different
context or
situations
constraints. I'm
differently.
talking within the constraints of like I'm writing one single novel
Oh,
versus a series or
right. Okay.
like a TV series. Obviously, when you have a TV series, everybody gets an actual arc, an actual internal thing to go through and multiple little things to progress through. But if it's just
Right.
a single, you're trying to write a one-time novel and you don't wanna get stuck, that's okay,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm
I
coming
think
from.
it can be I think you're right. I think it can be, or you can have them have an arc. So like I said, Mercedes and Elijah, maybe a little bit of an arc, not really. But two other side characters, Tristan and Luis, they do have arcs and they do change by the end. Actually, you know what? I even take that back. Tristan, he's a hot mess. He's I don't even know what to do with that boy. But Luis
Okay.
does, and he's very
Yeah.
much like a side character. So I think I'm gonna say you can go either way. You know,
Okay.
the side characters can, just kinda stay like good guys, you know, the ones that you love, they can stay, or they can change. I think it depends on what is necessary for your story. I also think that it could be really interesting. So you have your main character grow on their arc, right?
Mhm.
So it would be interesting if their foil then, so like you have the super serious one, and then you have the peppy one, the sunshine one. So as the super serious one grows on her arc, what would be interesting is if the foil, the sunshine character, also grows in his or her arc, and they because they're changing, they still wind up in constant conflict with each other the whole time. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
I think so. Yeah. Well, because you end up wanting something different, and
Yes.
that's what makes for yeah, that also makes for a good story. Um, the other thing that also and again, this is how we operate in real life. It's like, imagine you're the fighter guy and you fight everybody, and
Mm,
that's your rule. You walk into a room, it's like the movie Suits, right? You walk into a boardroom and you dominate, and you take every opportunity you can to assert dominance in the situation. Okay, very type A kinda guy. Um, but then you're with this one woman, maybe, there's one person, and he's perhaps the rule for that situation is I'm always gentle and soft and kind with this person,
mhm.
and I'm never trying to be dominant. And that then also creates questions like, well, why? This seems incongruous for the character. Why is the character doing this? It would then, if those are the rules and you follow them every time you create those scenes, like he gets a call from this person in the middle of a super dominant situation, that would be a very funny phone call to have to listen to, or to have him duck out of the room and then plead on the phone and stuff. It's like, huh, there's a very weird little, I just watched the new movie Playdate over the weekend with, gosh, it's this action comedy.
Yeah, it's,
I can't
Jason
remember the name of
Momoa's
the
in
actors.
it? Is he the one in
Anyhow,
it?
it's on Prime. Um, uh, it's it's a movie all about fatherhood and sons, and how all the dads in this movie are horrible people, um, and the sons who are now becoming fathers and have their own little sons, want to be good dads, but have no idea how, and so they're constantly gaslighting themselves, and they don't know how to do it, and then you throw a bunch of snipers and bad guys after them, and they're driving everywhere, and everything's exploding, and it's super fun. Um, and the characters have very clear rules. Here is how you act. When the fat dad is with the wife, the woman, the stepmom, stepwife, whatever that he loves, he's always fronting. I'm kind. I'm bold. I'm in charge of things. When he's with his son, he's like never let my wife know that I don't actually have it all together, and I'm going to try to be cool. Always trying to be cool with the kid. And then when he's with this kind of weird, overbearing, overgrown, muscle bound kid who's a security guard who's rescued somebody. He's constantly trying to push back and be the cautious one. And so you end up creating very clear little rules. And so it's fun because you then create predictable things you can look forward to. So when new bad guys come in or you walk into a home, you expect them to act in specific ways, which takes a mental load off you as a writer so that you're like, okay, I know I've got a series of situations I want to put them through to get them to the end. If I create these rules, how just see how long I can carry these rules for. Maybe before I get bored or before it stops working. But if you don't even have that, it can be hard to even sort of get through stuff.
I agree.
Got a cool couple of comments here. So Victor says side characters have to want something. Doesn't have to be an arc, but they do have to want something. Otherwise, they come across as just only existing as plot points for the main character. And that is
Exactly.
exactly my point. I think that's absolutely true. Side characters are always in danger of being like NPC characters in video games who only exist to deliver a specific bit of information to the main character. Absolutely true. That's probably a whole conversation about cutting them. cutting too many.
Mhm.
Author Jason's heading off to the day job. Have fun. Thanks for joining us. It was cool to spend some time with you.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Talk
Well,
a little later.
I don't. I'm, I'm now trying to process on the fly if I want to bring up my character. So her name is Freya, and how much time we have here. But I think what's interesting is I've noticed that she is. I think if I were to you're so good at picking your characters and knowing exactly what to say about them. I'm like, huh, I don't know about mine that I spend a year thinking with, and
Well,
writing
mine
about.
have been doing chaos in my head for, like, 10 years, so
Yeah, okay,
like
okay.
having your
Alright, well, I
kids.
got I got 8 to go then. Um, but it's I'm trying to think through, like, my character. So she's somebody she's accidentally sort of dumped into a fantasy world situation and has to survive, but
Mhm,
she wants to be a nerd who hides in a museum, because her parents are both archaeologists, her mom worked in a museum. Museums feel safe. The one time her mom was, out in the field, she died. And so the
mm,
girl wants to, well, I'm going to go work in a museum and, be like them, but also I think I'm going to be safe. And then
mhm,
stuff starts happening. She gets dumped in a world. And of course, all she can do is run for the first half of the book till she meets up with friends who are able to turn her around, try to get her to a safe place. And she starts to then understand that she's actually got a particular power that's actually really helpful for this world. Um, so I've been trying to think through, okay, first of all, how do I make her a protagonist? So
mhm,
I've been rewriting my opening chapters. Okay, she's got a protag, she's gotta take action, she's gotta at least make a decision to do stuff.
mhm.
Um, so I'm thinking that maybe her rule is it's actually I don't know, and this is where it's when it gets to be complex, I know it's a problem. So the 2 rules that are running in my mind at the same time, and you could go, "Well, that's just a nuanced character." It's like, "Well, okay, but I think I need to learn the basic lesson first." Um, she bravely goes or confronts problems head on. And I think that's a pretty good trait or rule for a main character to carry a story.
Mhm,
So, okay. And I've routinely written her like that. But
mhm.
it's in direct conflict with her other rule, which is I want to go hide in a museum.
I was
And
actually just about
not.
to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So that
So,
could be then her arc, because the
mm,
world is gonna force her to make decisions, and you as the author are gonna force her to confront things head on, but her
mhm,
rule for herself might just be, like, minimal confrontation. Like, the least I can do to take care of whatever I need to take care of, that's what I'm gonna do. And then you could kinda reconcile the 2 because she's still going to do things, she's just not gonna go all
mhm.
in all at once
So
head first.
when the first chapter I wrote was on my phone like 2, 3 years ago. And there's a scene she's vacuuming a little, apartment museum,
Mhm,
and then everything falls over. I know you got 3 minutes here. Everything falls over, and then this weird goblin gremlin thing appears and roots through her backpack, which is sitting on the floor, and it grabs her phone, and then it jumps out the window and goes up the side of the building. And she's mad.
mhm,
Now, what's happened is the world has suddenly broken, no reasons given
mhm,
yet, and, so she can't go out through the landing and up to the stairs, so she has to go out through the top of the side of the building as well, so she starts climbing up after, and there's this one line which I always thought was super funny for her to think to herself, which is, "I need to start half-assing things a lot more," right? Because there's a chance she could fall off, and this thing could jump on her, and it's got teeth, and this is a problem,
mhm.
and then she does end up actually falling off, and then she keeps charging into problems, but the whole time she says she never wants to. So maybe I just even after like what 130, 150,000 words or something, I haven't slowed down to think through there's a break inside my character or there's something off in there. Um and I'm hmm, nobody's going to watch this relative to the future, but part of the point is that she's a twin. She doesn't realize her other twin has been stuck in Neverland forever.
Ah,
And so I don't wanna, like, rely on that as, like, a crutch because
mhm,
he's the very brave, actiony one, and there must be some kind of, connection between them. So on her own, she needs to actually, there has to be a reason why now. Maybe she just needs to complain a lot more, but still bravely do the thing, but just,
mhm.
I need to stop half-assing or stop whole-assing what I'm doing and half-ass a lot more.
Well, I was gonna say people who want to put in the just, like, the baseline minimal effort, even they often feel like I am still putting too much effort in this. I know because there are situations where I am like, not all of my attention goes into this, and then all of my attention goes into it, and I'm like, so I feel like you do. I feel like you just kind of need to reorient how you're putting it like into words in your mind so that it's
Mm,
something stable you can come back to. But I feel like
mhm.
you have a believable character, and I'm going to leave you with that because I do have to go right now.
That's fine, and you're very kind. Alright, have fun. Good luck with
Talk
everything.
later. Bye bye. Thank you. You too.
Cheers. And then we'll start wrapping up this stream too, friends. Giovanni said, Victor says, is her long term goal where she needs to overcome that? Or do we see her maintain her personal quirks but bend the world around to fit her world? Yeah, definitely for me, for me, for her, for this character, because she does not listen to what I want. Um, it's coming into her own and owning the fact that she is the kind of bold person. And that is what pushes us right into the whole big climax and adventure situation. So she has to own this. And the way that she ends up doing that is by meeting, first of all, a bunch of brave figures. So she's surrounding herself, or she's meeting with a couple of people who are brave. And then, second, she sees somebody who would be her um, if she got what she wanted. And she meets kind of an academic sort of librarian person who's hiding away from everything, and who's happy to stay hidden away from everything. And, it's funny to realize after having written all those scenes with that character to realize, "Oh, this person is that mirror image impact." So I need to, like, you know, double down on that, I think, as I go through my re-edit. Um, 'Cause I remember driving and I was thinking, what if she were to have a monologue right before the climax about thinking through herself? Maybe I'll include it in the book or not. What would she say after all of these experiences, which is technically 3 days worth of insanity, trying to survive this thing? And what she's realized is that she actually likes who she is. She is a bolder, clearer headed person. And so I just need to now work backwards from that. If that's where she ends up, then the rule that she needs to start with is, um, yeah, probably do whatever she can to stay focused on her mission, which is getting into a museum vault. And that's why she actually volunteers for the first scene to go vacuum that little museum place. This is the other problem with why authors never finish their novels, even though mine's technically done. I wrote the end, but it's part 1 of two-parter, which is another conversation. But another thing why we never finish is because we keep wanting it to be perfect, which is a trap I know that I am in with this novel, which is one reason why it's finished. I need to re-edit it, but I've just put it off to the side. I'm now focusing on, another one. And so plotting it out, learning the mechanics, um, running my characters through different systems, I need to stop obsessing over this one novel and keep going on working on understanding how to do it again and again and again, and then be able to come back and much more easily and much more quickly go through and make those changes. It's exactly what I am doing right now. So I'm taking the pressure off of, well, it's finished. You got to publish it. You got to get it out. It's like, maybe I just need to keep doing the reps, learning how to story tell. And if I keep obsessing over just this one story, that is technically done, but I need to now, okay, put that aside. That was an awesome practice. Jump into um, the next, practicing the same process of learning how to storytell with another one. So Austin says, monologuing. Ha, you're right. You sly dog, you caught me monologuing. There you go. All right. Well, you caught me monologuing for about an hour and a half ish. Gabby joined us and we monologued together. It was fun to spend some time with you. I'm going to head off. Oh, before I do, I did say early on I was going to provide a sneak peek of our upcoming con. So if you don't see this live stream, you basically won't yet hear about it. This is the first time that I am sharing this. So going to be coming up in about 2 months. So Legend Haven 5, I'm building out the new version of the website. I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to do a lot more live streams right here on the channel, which is basically what we're doing here. We're just going to have a whole lot more guests, and we're all going to hang out. And then we'll also have a a version of the con inside the Legend Fiction community, so you can hang out and do more, and more with authors. Um, Basically, to join storytelling sessions like we did earlier. We hosted a couple of storytelling sessions at the last con. It was so cool to drop into those little meeting rooms and listen to authors reading aloud their stories. So I thought, okay, we need to do a lot more of that. Like, you need authors actually reading aloud their stories. That needs to be a thing. So we're doing a lot more of that. So we'll have a bunch of live streams, and then we're going to have storytelling and stuff in the expo and a marketplace and streamlined and simplified the whole thing. I think it's going to be an awful lot of fun. It's going to be April 18th. So that weekend. And then we're going to come back and do it again in October. So twice a year. And then right after it, we're going to host, right after each con, this is the plan. Right after each con, we're going to host a 30-day writing challenge, 30 days to 30K. Write 1,000 words a day and do it with other people. So if you've got a novel that you are thinking of, that you are planning and you're trying to get to, you can also commit to the 30-day writing challenge and then just work right now on planning and psyching yourself up and getting ready. Yeah, Victor says, gabbing with Gabby. I need to see if I can sell that to her. I think she might like that. If you haven't yet, I'm going to share this over here. We do have merch, which is fun. So you can go and check out our store. You can go visit our actual store. I'm going to pull it up and show you. We've got a really fun where did it go? Really cool new collection called I Start Stories. And if that's you, because that's totally me, you can grab this, support the community, show the merch. What is it? Show the pride, right? Rep the brand. Um, I mean, if you start stories, so do we. And that's what we all love doing. We're storytellers. Okay. Hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and we will see you next time. And we stop sharing. See you next week. It was really cool to spend some time with you. If you've got questions on anything, drop them in the comments. If you got questions on any of the videos that we have shared over this past week, I'd love to hear from you. Shout out totally to Victor Giovanni and Austin Burns and author adjacent. It was cool to spend some time with you. Victor, I shart stories. I'm not putting that on a t-shirt, buddy. Okay. I probably do too, but yeah, I'm not saying that. All right. Have an awesome rest of your day. Keep writing. Cheers, friends.